time mass, which some people call the turtle, and then spread all over the planet, and you'll have all these different tribes, and as we know, then now we come to the us, which is the modern humans. This original tribe is known as the first tribe, the Adam tribe, the original man. It's also important to note that Darwin, if you want, you can study him. I mean, he didn't really say as much as people think they did. They said he did, and he wasn't even the original. I don't know if I can call him scientist. Let's just say person that. Well, I think he was a scientist in some regard. But he was following some other. If you look into his work, I'm not going to go into all his work, but in any case, Darwin neither explained the origin of life nor the universe, but some people say he did. But that's out of ignorance or trying to say, okay, well, here I have proof. When they don't have proof, they're just making up stuff. Nor did anyone else. And atheists like to use this sort of understanding and as a form of deception to make something out of nothing, or in order to claim nothing, meaning, okay, well, we as humanoids deliberately came from monkeys or some other fossil. Again, it could be humanoid, but it doesn't mean that it's the same DNA as us, as the modern human, and moreover, it doesn't look like, if they do find a fossil, it'll look like some sort of other ape or monkey form of being, and of course they're extinct, but they'll just name something as, this is what it was our ancestors, when in reality they had nothing to do with our ancestors. They don't have the right DNA, it's the wrong size brain, capacity in the skull that they find, and they do this often, but yet when you begin to look into the actual bones and what's the DNA of it, how is it structured, and you'll see it's a total fallacy. So they indeed are claiming nothing, but atheists like to use it to say, we came from nothing, we're going to nothing, claiming there is no higher structure or a structure, a higher intelligence, which then gives them not even the ability to have intelligence, because they're actually coming from nothing. So they promulgate their misunderstanding because they neither looked into an actual subject, or someone had told them an erroneous study or examples that they were taught at some university which was a fallacy, but they still continue to teach it like it's an actual higher learning when it's an erroneous learning. And some people would even refuse to debate when it comes to these subjects, or they just disregard you because they say you don't have enough degrees to debate with a person who believes this nonsense out of no evidence other than their own illogical imagination. But then there's also another hand in which there are people who that worship dark entities, and they blatantly say one thing and say they believe another thing, but really believe in another thing. And that's the way they work, because they wallow in the shadow in their structure in order to maintain position or a monopoly on something that really doesn't exist, so they can continue to confuse. Because if it was a true higher learning, then we would have grown from this understanding. But because the understanding is ridiculous, then you in turn end up just being confused, believing in nonsense. So they understand and explain things in which they aren't, in which they don't exist, and their lack an inability to deny the basic understanding of truth, which is the forefront of the scientific method. You need to know, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3 creates step 4. But if you're saying step 25 and step 2, step 6 makes step 7, then what you're left is nothing but a bunch of word salad or head noise, and which doesn't give you enlightenment nor strength. And in the human instruction, this is actually gives you an understanding with faith, but it gives you the basic building blocks as to why faith is true, or why there's something more than to what you can see, and that what is actually in this dimension, in this physical reality or realm that we are currently bound in. So, okay, so every creature on this planet, I can get into this overall understanding of what exists and what is and why are we here. And again, it's all going to follow a format, so you can basically use a scientific method in this quest for truth and life. And some go through life and all these energies and everything goes through these structures that exist, that enable us to exist, and all the materials and all the laws, because there's also laws and procedures that governs this planet and everything around us, and the planets around us are orchestrated in such a way that not only creates life, but it orchestrates it and it continues it in a direction, and so you'll of more life. So the sun, the stars, the moons, and all these different things, the atoms, are all working in unison in order to create our weather, our other things that we need, the seeds, or the ability to breathe, and so forth. It orchestrates, again, when it rains, when it snows, how the plates work, or how the world is sort of separating it from itself. But there's also another factor that most people don't put into the reasoning as to why these things or the weather can either work for us or against us, and that's due to our energy, because there's energy that's orchestrating it, and without balance we won't have life. So we need to understand what is balance, how it works. It's very important. And how we move in this balance, and how the wind blows, and how all is orchestrated for reasoning and understanding and growth or non-growth, from the greater macro to the micro of ourselves as a collective. And even up to the smallest of to the largest of the creatures are all working in unison and understanding this principle. And we were put here, of course, to help orchestrate it. So we were endowed with this caretaker responsibility of this planet and its resources. So even like the ants and the birds and the bees and the elk, the buffalo, the wolf, the antelope, and all these other animals are all working in unison, but they in turn sometimes suffer due to that we are not orchestrating this world or planet as we should. So it was us, the humans, as a collective, that do not think and act and be as that man has evolved is yet to materialize, because we're still on this lower frequency that we got stuck on at one point, which a lot of time was just great knowledge that had been given a long time ago to the original Asiatic ebony man, which was separated from himself, which the lower energy has done long before in order to separate and divide us and not fulfill what is the direction that we were and are to go into to create a better planet. And some will be like, well, only the strongest is going to survive, when we, as humans, know that it's not always the strongest, and sometimes, it could be an animal's clever. It could be that one animal isn't built for one particular location, and you see that sometime where a bear will be trying to hunt a goat, and then 2 inches too far, reaching into the goat, and next thing you know, he's falling over a cliff. Or an animal that's usually a summer animal, and all of a sudden can adapt and turn his coat into an Arctic temperature coat and turn white and be able to exist. So there's something else that's able to give this ability to do this at any time, and which also means that as we enlighten, other things may happen either to the atmosphere or to us that would give us this enlightenment due to this energy. So they continue on this matter of fact, and keeping people astray to keep you confused. But the exact DNA of the old millions and millions of years ago in regards to time is also debatable. There's a whole science to this. I'm really trying to keep it down and keep it as simple as possible. So they're orchestrating this time where people debate due to the fact that how did things come to be the way they are, due to the fact that we see things moving, in regards to the terra firma, or the layering of structures over the years that can be done quickly as opposed to being done over time. So we're using all this data in order to theorize exactly how many thousands or millions of years ago something had occurred, and how some say that we had, again, that's a bad word to use, evolved, but as the beginning humans to the point that we are now, as opposed to just bouncing around from we started out as this, and then we turned into this, and we turned into that, without no proof or no way of replicating that. So technically, the atom or the original man is still here, but just separated in different pieces, just like a wolf has separated in different pieces, and you can see that different sections, and then we domesticated the wolf, and then it became the dog. But whether it's the dog, the wolf, the lion, or the bear, or the cheetah, or whatever animal or living creature that you can imagine, is, and always will have had the structure of above or below, in which it gives us directions and enables us to understand the truth of the structure. Now, eventually, we're going to go all the way back down to the Big Bang, and then we're going to go from there. But this is just this particular subject. But we will go over all that needs to be gone over in order to understand exactly how things came to be. And of course, they go into all these things about the human brain, and they're picking skulls. They don't know what it is, and they're just saying, well, the chimpanzee's brains or cerebellum, the cortex, which plays in memory and attention and awareness and thought, has twice as many cells, or that we had come from, how we had evolved. Now, of course, they're all making this up. They're saying, well, it started from the small pea-sized brain, and we got this bigger brain, and meanwhile, we still proven, even after thousands of years ago, that the animals are exactly the same, especially in some regards, like the chimpanzee from the gigantic chimpanzee. So at one point, a regular chimpanzee we see now is the exact carbon copy of the bigger one that we had at one point. So as opposed to drawing the conclusion, well, perhaps if this is the exact same chimpanzee, all these, I don't know, it could have been, depending on the time they said they found the fossil. But in any case, it is the exact same animal, except smaller. So that's why many people say, well, at one point there were larger humans, because it will stand to reason if there was all these, like a fly was big then, but then again, where are the fossils? And again, there was a lot of stories of these large skeletal remains, but end up disappearing, and no one claims to have them. At least that I've known. When you try to look for it or look in old material, many of the museums says, well, no, we don't have it. It got lost or whatever. And so they'll tell you all these stories, and again, they're trying to claim, well, this is how close we are to this animal or the monkey, or pig hearts are the closest to the human anatomy and function. So much that they used in certain medical studies. But it is not an exact in comparison to, there's a reasonable facsimile thereof, but there's a lot more components that need to be addressed. And then when you're looking for a solution, you'll find people lacking solution, and you'll find out, well, how did you come up to this conclusion? You'll find out that there's a lot of problems in between the point where they're beginning and the point where they're ending. So there's always these points that need to align directly in order to come up with a final conclusion. So they say, well, this is our theory, but yet there's nothing else that they can compare it to in order to show you, okay, well, this is why we come up with this conclusion, as opposed to when you're looking into it, they'll kick you out of the school, and you haven't committed any violations other than you were able to prove that their theory is nothing more but than a misplaced a narrative that someone has put down just so they can mislead you and keep you in ignorance. And they do that with religion. They do that with all sorts of history, whether it's the Egyptian history or American history. When you start to look in all the directions and find all the evidence, then you're talking about places where you're not allowed to look, or things you're not allowed to examine. And then you'll find out that, it is indeed and was and always was a lie in order to capitulate all this negative continuation, so they can keep the scam going in that particular objective of ignorance. So if you're proving, of course, that we didn't evolve because apes lived in the forest and didn't need to walk. So then we have people who lived in the forest since the beginning of time, and more you find shelter in the woods and will not evolve. Did not evolve immediately, but had evolved over time, as we should, in regards to our understanding and capability and comprehension, in order to coexist with